The Northeast Vienna Citizens Association and the Vienna Business Association want to welcome you to the 2020 Meet the Candidates for Mayor of the Town of Vienna. Although originally scheduled to take place at the Vienna Community Center, we are recording this forum instead. This recording is taking place on April 4th, 2020. I'm Doug Francis, First Vice President of NEVCA and the moderator of this forum. NEVCA retains the copyright to this content, and this content can only be used with written permission from the president of NEVCA. For permission, please email us at info@nevca.org. Before we begin, Fairfax County General Registrar and Director of Elections, Gary Scott, has asked us to read the following. The current health crisis is having a significant impact on the preparations for and the conduct of voting in the May 5th Vienna town elections. Voters and officers of election have valid concerns with respect to their exposure to COVID-19. However, at this time, the Vienna polling place will be open on election day. We'll take precautions to reduce the exposure of all involved by sanitizing ballot marking pens, wiping down the surfaces of tables and ballot marketing booths, limiting the number of voters in the polling area, and enforcing social distancing to ensure the exposure of the virus is as low as we can make it. We will also be reducing staffing at the polling place to the lowest possible level while ensuring the continuation of the voting process. This will slow the process, and voters may end up standing in lines to gain access to the polling place. As an alternative, we encourage voters to go to our website, www.fairfaxcounty.gov/elections, and review the process for requesting and casting an absentee ballot by mail. As Virginia does still require for voters to provide a reason for casting an absentee ballot, anyone can use the reason code 2A. Applications for absentee ballots can be submitted online, faxed, or scanned, and submitted as an email attachment to absenteeballot@fairfaxcounty.gov. Ballots will be mailed the next business day after the application is processed, and the marked ballots must be returned to the Office of Elections no later than 7 p.m. on May 5th, 2020. The deadline is requested. An absentee ballot by mail is 5 o'clock, April 28th, 2020. If you choose to exercise this option, you should request your ballot as early as possible to ensure the postal system has ample time to deliver your ballot and for your return it to the Office of Elections. In-person absentee voting is also available at the Fairfax County Government Center Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. Our office will also be open 9 to 5 Saturday, May 2nd for in-person absentee voting. For this election, all in-person absentee voting will be done curbside, and applications and ballots will be brought out to your car. This is a slow process, so if you choose this option, expect some delays. Just another comment, if you go to the website, you're going to see that they have a April 13th deadline for absentee voting. So just check on that, double check on it. Welcome to the forum. So there are some rules to go with our forum, and here they are. Inflammatory and hateful comments regarding to race, gender, sexual orientation, religion, or age, personal attacks, name calling, or belittling another member, use of profanity at any time, inappropriate sexual references or terminology, questioning the moderator or administrator on a topic. Those are all prohibited. Please keep the following in mind. There are no winners here. Winners will be determined at the polls on May 5th. Twisting people's words or quoting them out of context is misleading and not constructive. Avoid blanket statements that focus on a broad topic, not specific to the subject at hand. Follow the rules. Establishing credibility does take time. There is, however, a lot you can do to help speed the process along. Cite your sources and be prepared to back up your argument. Avoid use of unsupported blanket statements, and remember you can disagree without being disagreeable. We have our three candidates with us today. We have Pasha Majdi, Linda Colbert, and Howard Springsteen, who all currently serve on the Vienna Town Council. We did draw to go through our opening statements, and we actually have our opening statement, which is going to come from Howard. He'll have the first opportunity to give a 2-minute opening statement. Howard?
Thank you very much. Good morning. Thank you, NEVCA and the VBA for hosting this debate. My name is Howard Springsteen. I'm running for mayor and I ask for your vote. I'm proud of my reputation for being responsive to citizens' concerns and getting things done. I also like to look out for what is best in the interest of Vienna and its citizens. The mayor must serve as a voice of and an advocate for the citizens of Vienna. This is a responsibility I've taken very seriously since you first elected me to council 11 years ago. I have lived in Vienna for 23 years up in Place Northwest. This is where my wife and I have raised our children. I have a demonstrated history of involvement, service, leadership, and a wide range of community organizations. I'm running for mayor because I believe I can deliver on what the citizens of Vienna want now and can make a difference. I have a record of accomplishment that provides confidence in future performance. I bring extensive expertise to town government. I currently manage contracts valued over $20 million and have been responsible for numerous construction projects, both in Fairfax County and the Vienna Fire Station. My strong record of building coalitions with Fairfax County government officials and extensive community service add great value to my work on behalf of Vienna. Strong physical oversight and decisive action will be critical for the town to recover from the economic impact of the pandemic. As mayor, I will have to help make hard decisions needed and provide the necessary leadership. I will not make unrealistic promises. Once we get through this emergency, and we will get through this emergency, we need to keep the town heading in a good direction. I stand on my voting record, my experience and reputation. Thank you for the privilege of serving. I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. Now our next introduction comes. It is Linda.
Thank you. Thank you, VBA and NEVCA and council members Springsteen and Majdi. You know, a month ago, I thought I would be looking out to friendly faces and doing this forum. And I also thought I would be knocking on a lot more doors, listening to residents' concerns and having good conversations. But COVID-19 has changed that, and it's changed my priority. My priority right now is the health and well-being of Vienna residents. I do not feel it's safe for me to come to your door. So what I've been doing with my time and energy is I've been a sort of liaison for businesses and residents and local and regional government, and just trying to guide everybody through this time. I grew up in Vienna and I've been involved in so many things in Vienna. I was a teacher at Madison High School. I have seen this town come together in many crises, but in this time, I am just amazed at how the teaming up between residents and businesses, and it just really makes me understand and know for sure that we can get through any issue together. We just need a leader that can bring us together. You know, our issues are not black and white, and I will not use and divide our town for political gain. COVID-19 has changed things and it will have an impact on our economy. I can be the leader that will help keep Vienna fiscally strong. Vienna needs a leader that residents and businesses respect and that understands them, that has local and regional experience and connections, and someone that can lead us through this crisis on to the other side so that we can again start focusing on how to make Vienna better for you. Thanks.
Thank you, Linda. And next up, we have Pasha. Pasha?
Thanks, Doug. Vienna's my hometown. I grew up playing VYS and VYI at Waters and Cafe and at the community center. I'm a proud alumnus of Louise Archer and Epiphany Preschool before that. I went to TJ and Duke University, where I was president of the student body at both. I came back home because I love my hometown, and now I'm raising my family here. Our family has 4 generations in Vienna because we love this town and everything it stands for. 6 years ago, I ran for council. I knocked on 1,000 doors and I said, let's keep Vienna a small town. I've taken the lead on the biggest issues in town. I don't just follow the crowd. I was the only council member who voted against the MAC, the Maple Avenue rezoning. I was the only council member who voted against the forthcoming residential rezoning. I see risks in advance and I apply caution. Those are the qualities we need in our town leadership right now. And that's why I'm running for mayor. Given everything that's going on, we're going to have to make some tough decisions to balance the budget. We need to be cautious and get back to basics. Police, trash pickup, public works, and utilities. Right now, we can't afford to spend $250,000 on a consultant to rezone our residential neighborhoods. As mayor, I will stop the residential rezoning and apply that $250,000 to basic services and public health. We certainly can't afford to spend $14 million on a new police station funded by the meals tax. Meals tax revenues are down 75%. As mayor, I will balance the budget and make the hard decisions to keep our small town running. If you want a mayor who understands the risks and is looking out for you, vote Pasha and please vote absentee.
Thank you, Pasha. So we're going to go through a series of 9 questions, and the questions, each candidate will have an opportunity to provide a rebuttal on 3 of the questions. And on this first one, Pasha, you will have the opportunity at the end to have an additional minute. Going through the calendar here, I do see on the schedule that Pasha, you're the first one to answer a question here. So our first question, these were submitted through email by the general public, through our website and through Facebook. They've been compiled by the Vienna Business Association as well as NEVCA, who made the decision to ask these questions.
Great.
So our first question. The COVID-19 pandemic has been incredibly devastating to all our local businesses, including restaurants, retailers, and services. What is your immediate or long-term vision for aiding the recovery of our local small businesses and local economy? Pasha?
Thanks, Doug. That is a timely and incredibly important question. First, let's look at what I've already done. 1, we have developed the first database of local Vienna businesses and restaurants. People want to know who's open or closed and whether restaurants have delivery or carryout. Go to pashaforvienna.org. That's pashaforvienna.org to find out and support your local businesses. We've also put up signs at local restaurants that offer grab-and-go service for food. We gave business owners these signs free of charge because we know our restaurants are facing tough times right now. And finally, I'm organizing a Q&A session with experts at Navy Federal Credit Union for local businesses to learn more about new government programs that are available to them. That was just this week. As mayor, I can do a whole lot more.
Okay, Pasha, thank you. Our next comment is actually coming from Linda. Linda?
Doug, thank you so much. You know, this is a very scary time for our businesses. They have supported us always as a town, and it is now time for us to support them. I have consistently been a patron and also spoken to our business leaders around town. I'm in the Vienna Business Association, and I have constantly and consistently supported them. This past time, I have been doing a Facebook update, and I've been trying to support our businesses that way. I've also gone around and I have talked personally to almost every business owner in town, and we've had a conversation about how we can help. There are a lot of things we can do short term, delaying the property tax, for example, delaying perhaps a fee for having the meals tax late. We have an economic manager, and our economic manager can help them with grants and also with federal aid. We have a $3 million premium. I think we have to be really careful how we spend that because we have to keep our town fiscally strong too. But that's something that we can look
Thank you,
at
Linda.
as ways. Thanks.
And Howard.
Thank you, Doug. On a personal level, we are all doing what we can to support our local businesses, but we know that's a drop in the bucket. This is a devastating hit for businesses. In the short term, the town has focused on communication and information, for example, ensuring the county, state, and federal aid is available to our businesses. We've also taken discrete steps such as waiving the sign ordinance. The continuation of basic services which supports our businesses is also a top priority. For release over the medium term, the council has asked the town's economic development manager to put together a menu of options for consideration, including possible delays in collection of certain taxes and fees. Longer term, we're going to take a hard look at the budget. Vienna is likely to see a substantial reduction in revenues, and we are going to have to make some very difficult decisions to balance the budget. But we need to continue to move forward on initiatives that will make this town more business friendly, such as streamlining regulations, accelerating decision-making, creating greater transparency, and addressing parking concerns. Thank you.
And Pasha, you're actually going to have an additional minute.
One thing we need to think about over the long term is how are we going to stabilize the budget, stabilize revenue, and prioritize, most importantly, basic services and supporting our local businesses. I do support a brief reprieve from meals tax collection. I think that's a good idea. But I think what's more important than that is how are we going to get people to patronize local businesses and start up our economy again? The best way to do that is to work with Fairfax County and the federal government and take advantage of stimulus packages and programs that are being rolled out right now by the federal government to stimulate the economy. As mayor, I'll lead an effort with our economic development manager to implement those programs here at home.
Okay, thank you, Pasha. Okay, our next question leading off will be Linda. And then Linda, you also have the 2-minute rebuttal at the end. So our second question, what changes do you think are critical in the rewriting of the Vienna zoning regulations?
Okay, well, that's a great question. I think the main thing that we want to do for this is we really just want to reorganize it and make it clear for citizens to be able to read, for business owners to be able to look at, and also for builders. And, you know, it's going to be something that any changes we make, our citizens we're going to get a lot of citizen outreach, and we're going to have public hearings. So it's something that they are going to have a say in. We, you know, some of the things that we need to do is help residents that want to stay in their homes. So perhaps they're not on the full 25% lot coverage, but maybe they want to put a front porch on, looking at setbacks and things like that. But this is, again, something that we're going to be talking to our residents about and helping them and just making it clear. You know, we also are not up to our state code. There are things in our code that do not match, and so those are really important things to get fixed.
Thank you. Next is Howard.
Okay, thank you. I support a review and update where needed and a rewrite of the town code. One lesson we learned during the MAC controversy is that zoning code ambiguity creates too much gray area that can be exploited. We need a rewrite of the code so that you see is what you get. Our zoning and building codes must be comprehensible, transparent, and not subject to legal manipulation. Our current code is a patchwork of amendments that create ambiguity, inconsistencies, and conflicting interpretations. It needs to be modernized to reflect current day realities and not 1960 realities, which is when our code had the last substantial rewrite. There must be resident buy-in and support for any updates or changes. Vienna was the first community to adopt a zoning ordinance in Fairfax County, deciding in 1949 that it wanted to control its own destiny in terms of building and development. And that gives us a tremendous ability to manage our town. We need to get this right.
Thank you, Howard. Okay, Pasha.
Thank you. First, we need to stop the residential rezoning process and direct those funds toward public health and basic services. $250,000 is a lot of money for this town. That's nearly 1% of our annual operating budget for the entire town. At a time when every dollar counts, we need to be smart and plan ahead. After we stabilize the budget, we should rewrite the code for the commercial sector, not the residential sector. Opening up the residential sector for a code rewrite can cause us to lose our green space in our neighborhoods. I don't want to take that risk. The reason Vienna has so much charm and small town feel, as people say, is because of technical provisions in our zoning code that we want to keep. Opening up the entire code for a rewrite is way too risky right now.
Okay, thank you. And additional comments, Linda, this is your opportunity.
Yeah, hiring a consultant is very smart on our part. None of us are experts in this field, and the consultant is just going to help us and guide us. They're not making any decisions for us. The decisions still lie with the council, and again, we're going to get a lot of resident feedback. I was talking to my neighbor on Oasa Court. She just wants to stay in her home, and this is a way to help our residents. So there's nothing to be scared about when it comes to residential. And also another thing I want to mention, things like light spillage over in the industrial area. I know for sure that that's something we need to look at and we need to fix. So this is a great way, doing it holistically. Our planning commission also agrees this is a super way. I've talked to a lot of people about this, and we're going to be okay. And I think this is a great way to do it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to move on to our third question. And Howard, you are going to be starting off with this one, and then you'll have the final rebuttal on it as well. Okay. As mayor, what would your plan be to move forward with this update? This is along the same theme. And how would you intend to act strategically and proactively to address our lagging zoning ordinance?
Thank you, Doug. That's a very good question. I too am in favor of having the zoning consultant look at things. I would like to work with the zoning consultant, the planning commission, and town staff, and make sure what we are working for is what the residents want and will work for the foreseeable future. I do not think we will be tinkering with the residential neighborhoods. I think we want to support the residential neighborhoods, and we need to support commercial areas. So I look at working with the zoning consultant. It might take a bit longer because of the emergency, and working with the planning commission and staff and getting good input from residents. Thank you.
Okay, our next is going to be Pasha. You're going to be up. Let me unmute you. There you go.
Thanks, Doug. During the COVID-19 pandemic and the coming economic recession, we may not see a lot of development on Maple Avenue. We need to support small businesses in our town and let them invest in existing buildings to expand their businesses. The best example of that is Bear Branch Tavern. I support widespread use of site plan modifications to allow for more outdoor seating and parking agreements that let small businesses flourish. After the recession, we need development at 3 stories or less that plans ahead for traffic and schools. We haven't been doing that. Buildings should be primarily commercial. We don't need 150-unit apartment buildings on Maple. And I have no problem with consultants. Consultants are fine. But let's stick to commercial, not residential.
Okay. And our final statement's going to come from Linda.
Yeah, I think everything, COVID-19 is certainly going to change everything, and we need to, of course, keep that in mind as this goes. What is feasible on Maple Avenue right now is probably going to be different, at least for a while. Everything we do in this update is going to be transparent, and it's going to be efficient. And those are the 2 main things. And I want to get as much public outreach as possible, get our citizens involved, and hear what they have to say about this.
And then Howard, you actually have the final opportunity here to add to this. Additional thoughts on it?
Yes, thank you, Doug. Thank you very much. Again, I don't think we can underemphasize the issue with the emergency that's going on. This is going to delay things for several months or maybe a year or so. But our planning and zoning update, we anticipate taking 18 months. This is critical. The vast majority of the council has supported that, along with the planning commission. And I think even if we have to slow things down a bit, we need to continue to move in the right direction. It's critical that we fix our zoning code to make it much more readable and doable. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move to our next question. Question number 4, Pasha, you're going to start out with this one and then also have the chance to give a rebuttal. Question number 4. What is your position on the future use of Beulah Road government facility, in the past known as Beulah Road Park, and used 6 months of the year for leaf mulch operations? Pasha?
Doug, I'm so glad you asked this question. I've been hearing from residents and neighbors for months about this issue, really for years, because it goes back decades. Let's restore an 8-acre park right in the middle of town to add green space and meeting space for kids groups like the Girl Scouts or Cub Scouts. 8 acres of residential property right in the middle of town would cost at least $15 million. But we already own Beulah Road Park. It's free. The town chooses to use this jewel of a property for industrial processing in the middle of a residential neighborhood. That doesn't make any sense. I'm 100% committed to maintaining leaf pickup and mulch delivery. We can move the leaf processing elsewhere, or we can take care of it off-site, like every other jurisdiction in Northern Virginia. Let's make Beulah Road Park a park again.
Thank you. And Linda, you're next up. Your thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Doug. Traditionally, you know, leaf pickup in the fall and mulch delivery in the spring has been something that our residents really enjoy and really like. But I also think it's good to always reevaluate what we do in town and look at things differently. And before COVID-19, I was out talking to residents, some on Holloway Court, some more over on, I think it's called Ames Tree Court, and just listening to what they have to say. And they are really close to the mulch yard. And so, you know, there are definitely different sides to this, different thoughts on this. And I would love to have a community conversation. You know, also we need to do some research. We need to look at cost. We need to look at efficiency. There's a lot of things that we really don't know right now. And so those things need to be discussed. But having a town communication on what's best for the entire town would be wonderful, I think, and be something I totally would be open for.
And then Howard, you have the mic.
Doug, thank you very much. Elimination of leaf mulching yard will leave us with 3 options as I see it. Buy or lease a new site that is a costly option due to the lack of available space in Vienna. Elimination of leaf collection services. This means citizens will be responsible for leaf disposal, which will not be cheap. Truck the leaves to disposal to Fairfax County facilities. This option would create an additional cost to the town of at least $300,000 a year. It would also eliminate the popular mulch delivery program that delivered, I think, 935 truckloads of mulch to residents last year. The town of Vienna is going to face significant budgetary challenges to the coronavirus emergency. In the short term, I will take a hard look at everything that will substantially increase costs. I'm open to any venues encourage conversations on this issue with the understanding, as Councilwoman Colbert said, we need to have a dialogue with the entire town and see what's best for the entire town. Thank you.
Thanks, Howard. And Pasha, you actually have the final word here. Just a moment. There we go. You're on.
Thanks. I'll be brief. I've done my homework on this, and the town delivered 781 loads of mulch in the last fiscal year where we measured this. 781. It's not that many. If we were to procure that mulch and deliver it, it would only cost about $50,000 to $70,000. Now, that's not the type of money that we can just throw around, but there are ways to redo our leaf processing and mulch delivery in the town without breaking the budget. We can do it off-site, just like Falls Church. We can do it the way Fairfax County does. I say look around, try other options. We don't have to do industrial facilities in the middle of residential neighborhoods. And I guarantee we will have leaf pickup and mulch delivery.
Thank you, Pasha. So we're going to move on to the next question. Linda, you're going to be the first one up on this. And so it's question number 5. Let me get this. Wearing a lot of hats here. Okay. Number 5. State your position on the development of Maple Avenue.
Thank you, Doug. A very important question and something that has been on the forefront of my mind for years. And I talk to friends, I talk to residents about it all the time. You know, I'm a hometown girl. I totally agree. And I think all of Vienna agrees that we want to keep Vienna unique. And that is something that we can do. You know, we had a process going and we stopped that process. And so now it's time to move forward. And let's look at what was good about that process and what was not so good and what did we learn. You know, I've talked to so many residents about this. COVID-19, again, is going to change things because, of course, you know, what is economically feasible on 123 is something we need to look at. But, you know, residents over on Locust, I talked to them, they want something to walk to, and they want Maple Avenue to be walkable. I talked to other people. I have a friend whose son wants to move back to town. I have another friend whose mother wants to move to town. We need a different
Thank you, Linda.
price housing also, I think.
Thank you, Linda.
Thanks.
Howard?
Thank you, Doug. My record speaks for itself. I have not pivoted because of an election. I support projects that protect and improve the quality of the life in Vienna. The allowable heights and densities in the current MAC do neither of these. This is why I have consistently voted against MAC projects for extending the moratorium. I've advocated for buildings with varying heights and densities that not to overload our infrastructure and traffic, and buffer zones that adequately protect abutting neighborhoods. Adequate parking to prevent crowding of other businesses or spillover into neighborhoods, I've also advocated. This is not an anti-development stance. It's a pro-Vienna stance. I stand by my record. New buildings should fit into Vienna and not overshadow existing properties. We must have adequate buffers between commercial and residential development. Thank you.
Okay. And Pasha, your thoughts?
Thanks. Well, 6 years ago, I voted against the MAC and I said, we need to have a traffic plan. I think that's a pretty necessary element for moving forward with development on Maple Avenue. Right now, we don't have a lot of traffic, but eventually, when things get back to normal, traffic has always been the #1 issue in town. And I agree with Councilmember Springsteen. In fact, we voted the same way on a lot of issues in town. One thing I do think it's important, and I've been making this point for about 6 years now, is whatever the plan is moving forward, we have to plan ahead for traffic and schools. I support development at 3 stories or less that's primarily commercial, that plans ahead for traffic and schools. And that's where I stand apart.
And our final word on this is actually going to come from Linda. And Linda, do you have an additional thought on this?
I do. You know, I have no agenda on height on Maple Avenue. Whatever is economically feasible and whatever our residents want and whatever works. We need to make some hard decisions. We just need to say, what is it that we want? What is the balance that we want on Maple Avenue? And I think we can get there with thoughtful dialogue. You know, I think it's interesting that Councilman Majdi brings up the fact that he's against the MAC. I have an article here from the Vienna Voice. It's November 2018, and he calls it, I will read it, it's sophisticated rezoning process, and he does call it genius. I will say that it was a process that we did put a moratorium on. It's something we learned from. Certainly, I wanted to move a process forward, but when we saw there were issues, I voted to stop that, and we will have a good conversation with all our residents and decide where we want to go from here.
Okay, thank you, Linda. We're going to now move on to question number 6. Howard, you're going to start off with this and actually have the chance for a rebuttal at the end. Okay, so question number 6. The town's Conservation and Sustainability Commission and town staff, in conjunction with a paid consultant paid by the town, did an extensive greenhouse gas emission study or carbon footprint over a year ago. How and when will you utilize this information, possibly in the next comprehensive plan, to create a more sustainable community? Howard?
Thank you, Doug. This is a great question. I commend the work of the town's Conservation and Sustainability Commission. They have put some great options on the table for us to consider. Vienna's volunteer citizen boards provide great value to our community. I think they're great to have. The study, if my memory serves me correctly, suggested 3 areas of energy use: electricity, natural gas, and vehicle fuel, and suggested achievable goals to reduce both consumption and cost. I want to include these goals in the town's next comprehensive plan. The council will update the plan later this year. We have already taken significant action to improve efficiency and reduce energy costs. The community center received its gold LEED certification. We'll see similar design features than the new police station. We made great progress replacing fluorescent lights with LED and incorporating energy efficiency in our purchase decisions. My professional experience managing the county's fuel program and working in vehicle services provides me with a great depth in this area, and it's quite exciting to see the new innovations and new technologies that will be coming online in the next several years. I look forward to working with town staff so we can bring some of these innovations to the town.
Thank you, Howard. Next comment comes from Pasha. Pasha?
Thank you. We spend over $150,000 per year on fuel. If I'm mayor by 2030, that number will be zero. The first step is to amend the Vehicle Replacement Program guidelines. It's on page 16, by the way. I will work with the Conservation and Sustainability Commission and Public Works to develop the right policy. As mayor, I will also work with Fairfax County to implement an operational energy strategy for the town. I think there are some real gains to be made here in Vienna. And I think we can make concrete investments in charging stations for cars, for vehicles, town vehicles, that will pay for themselves in a few years and eventually even start making money for the town. I already have a draft ready to go.
Okay, thank you, Pasha. And then we have Linda, you're up next. Let me just get you there. There you go. You're on.
Thank you, Doug. Very, very important question. You know, we just need to be responsible stewards for our environment. And, you know, doing that, we can also save money for our town. The other day, I sat down with our sustainability commissioner, the chair, Susan Stillman, and another member, and we discussed ways that we can move forward on this. You know, we did this study, but now we got to get things done, basically. Right now, the police station should be LEED Gold. I think we are working on a way to reduce idling vehicles. It's a policy that we're coming up with. And I just had the arborist out to my home. I was the first person to do this. They're doing a tree inventory, which is really cool. Taking a tree inventory, trying to get all the trees in Vienna, and knowing what kind of trees we have will allow them to know how to manage trees and things like that. But I really just think the town needs to set an example here in this area.
Okay, and our final comment, Howard, do you have additional thoughts on this? Howard, do you want?
About that.
There you go.
Yeah, I thought I had disconnected the phones. So my only comment I'll make is I think this is a gray area. I think we need to temper the reality is there's more and more low efficient vehicles coming out. I think as they become available in the marketplace, we need to phase them in. I appreciate Pasha Maji's thing about having zero emissions in a number of years, but I really think the market's going to determine that. And as the vehicles come out, if we can replace the vehicles with lower emission vehicles, that's probably the way to go, whether it be electrical or whatnot. But I think with this emergency happening, we're going to be really tempered what we can do in a lot of areas. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we are going to move on to the next question, question number 7. And Pasha, you're going to start off with that. Let's see what we've got. And then you will also have the chance to give a 1-minute follow-up at the end. Okay. So question number 7. Sorry, I just need to stop the clock here before it goes off. Okay, question 7. One could argue that a good mayor builds positive working relationships with town staff and commissioners to achieve policy goals. How do you view your current relationships with staff and commissioners, and how do you view your role in working with these public servants as mayor? Pasha?
Thanks, Doug. That's a great question. The mayor is the leader of the council, and the council listens to the people. I'm working with 3 candidates for council, Chris Wright, Andrea Dahl, and David Patario, and the 4 of us together are developing an agenda that listens to residents' priorities. I think one thing that's been happening a lot is that our council's taking direction from staff and telling the residents what should happen with the town of Vienna. I'd like to do things in reverse. I think that the mayor and the council should lead the agenda and set the priorities for the town. And our priorities are, first, limiting cut-through traffic and slowing down cut-through traffic in our residential neighborhoods. Second, adding parks and green space throughout the town. And third, having small town redevelopment for Maple Avenue that plans ahead for traffic and schools. That's what people want. And that's what we need to do within Town Hall with leadership from the mayor and the council.
Thank you, Pasha. Next up is Linda. There you go. Linda, you got the mic. Oh, you know what, Linda? You're going to have to start over again. Sorry, this is a do-over here.
Okay, no problem. Tell me when I'm ready.
You're good to go.
Okay, great, thanks. I don't proclaim to know everything, and I'm not an expert on everything, and I don't think anybody on council is. So I think our staff is very important to listen to. They are professionals. And I also think, we have such smart people in Vienna and such much smart people on our commissions. And I work great with them. I know a lot of them personally, and we talk often. And that is what is so important to do on any issue. We just need to keep that conversation going. Listening is just really important. I can work with anybody. I am an independent candidate. I think it's surprising that Councilman Maggi even uses the word agenda. It just makes me very uncomfortable to say that. I am looking forward to working with anyone who gets elected for the town council. This is what council is about having different views and listening to each other and, coming about things, coming to a consensus.
Thank you, Linda.
But listening to everybody. Thanks so much.
Howard.
Can I quick question with the phone ringing? Could you repeat the question? Make sure I get exactly what I heard you. Sorry.
Sure. Absolutely. One could argue that a good mayor builds positive working relationships with town staff and commissioners to achieve policy goals. How do you view your current relationships with staff and commissioners? And how do you view your role in working with these public servants as mayor?
That's a very good question, Doug. I think I have a very good relationship with staff. I think we as a council, three of us running together, the council generally does vote a lot of issues, and we all care very deeply about Vienna. I don't think there's anyone who doesn't agree that we need better sidewalks, better traffic calming, but we have to look at the financial implications of that. So I look at myself as listening to other council folks. I think we depend on our board and commissioners. And I think staff, we have 180 plus staff members in Vienna, and I think our staff works very hard, especially during this emergency. I think we're very, very lucky to have them.
Thank you, Howard. Okay, and then Pasha, you actually have the final word. Extra thoughts.
Thanks so much. I forgot a couple of examples. I should have brought this up earlier. Earlier this year, actually, I think it was December of last year, I suggested that we set a tree conservation policy, and I suggested that we engage the Conservation and Sustainability Commission to come up with proposals, and also talk to the Board of Architectural Review through a formal process where they can come up with recommendations to how to improve internal processes for approving construction that has, unfortunately, in some cases, cut down trees unnecessarily. That's a perfect example of how to engage with commissions, not just on administrative action, but also legislative action. Let's work together and use our experts on our commissions.
That's great, Pasha. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on to our next question here. Linda, you're going to be the first one answering this question. Question number 8.
Okay.
Citizens of Vienna have concerns about aggressive motorists, speeding, ignoring stop signs, and more. What are your solutions to this ongoing problem?
Well, thank you so much. This is a quality of life issue. It is something that people deal with every day. I was talking to a resident over on Mashie, and he literally makes decisions whether he goes to his son's band concert based on the traffic. And that's just not okay. So a couple things we need to do is we need to keep traffic moving on 123. And how do we do that? We've got light synchronization. We're going to get these new cameras to put on that will help us do the light synchronization real time. We have a new traffic engineer, and he's coming up with innovative, and he has some new tools that can keep that traffic moving, because we want to keep the traffic out of neighborhoods. We just got a wonderful grant money from Maud Robinson to put sidewalks in town. And that is a way to, number one, get cars off the street, get people walking, and it's a way of keeping our residents safe. And so on the first batch of that, I went around and talked to all the different streets and neighbors.
Thank you, Linda.
Thanks.
Howard, your thoughts?
Doug, thank you very much. Traffic and safety concerns are what drove me to town government. I served for 8 years in the Transportation Safety Commission. I spent a lot of time working on traffic calming measures. The TSC does great work, and I'd like to reduce the lag time between its recommendation and installation of traffic calming measures. I've always been very supportive of the pedestrian safety measures and push aggressively for sidewalks and speed humps on cut-through streets. The roundabout in Park Street is one of our most successful traffic calming measures. I want to give a shout out to both Councilman Colbert and Maggi, they were a big supporter of that. The entire council supported that. One of my top priorities is to keep traffic off our side streets, and that means using modern technologies to time lights so that traffic moves along Maple Avenue. We need to continue to use a combination of traditional traffic measures, police enforcement, and innovative technologies to keep up the battle against aggressive driving. All that needs to be coupled with pedestrian safety measures. Sidewalk construction, particularly around schools, has always been one of my top priorities. And I want to overemphasize the Maud Robson gift has just been priceless to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. And Pasha, you're on.
Doug, thank you so much for asking this question. Politicians have been promising to address cut-through traffic for 30 years, but it keeps getting worse. Despite the promises, when you look at the budget, there's not enough money for speed humps, sidewalks, and crosswalks. Let's change that. I'm working with 4 candidates to finally deliver on the promises people in Vienna have heard for so long. For all of us, this is our top priority and our #1 issue. Lastly, don't dump cars onto neighborhoods with poor planning for Maple Avenue. Residents on Glen Avenue, Wade Hampton, and Roland all know very well what it's like to have a town council that uses neighborhood streets as a release valve for traffic on Maple. As mayor, I will put neighborhoods first and plan ahead for traffic.
And Linda, you've got the final word on that.
Thank you. I want to thank Councilman Springsteen because he got me involved way early in the Transportation Safety Commission that he was also on. And being on that, you know, I realized that they have so many tools and they look at each street individually because it's not the same answer for everything. Not every street needs a speed hump. Not every street needs a stop sign. Each one is unique. And just one other thing, I'm working with a group, a McLean Citizens Association, and I'm on a representative for the town, and we work with Tyson's, and we are constantly talking to the Board of Supervisors, the Planning Commission, and making sure that the infrastructure at Tyson's is in place so that that traffic does not come through Vienna, that they have enough adequate schools and adequate facilities and fields and things like that. And that also to help us mitigate traffic. So that's something else that can help with mitigating traffic in Vienna.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to move on to question number 9. Starting that off will be Howard. And so question 9. So what do you feel has best prepared you as current council members to lead the other members of the town council if elected mayor?
Doug, that's a great question. I'd like to highlight 3 factors which prepare me to work with other council members of the new council. 1, I have a deep institutional knowledge of Vienna. I've served over 6 terms or 11 years of council and developed a depth and breadth of experience in all areas in the Vienna government. I've seen and worked on hard issues that have been successfully addressed by the mayor and council. My voting record and outreach speaks for itself. 2, I have proven leadership experience. I've served for over 9 years as president of the Vienna Volunteer Fire Department, stepping down after I was elected to council in 2009. I was instrumental in getting the fire station rebuilt in 2005, including obtaining several different funding streams. The VVFD is one of the most successful volunteer fire departments in Northern Virginia, and I'm a life member and still very active. 3, I can make government work successfully. I have an extensive history of successful government management experience. I bring common sense solutions and ability to make decisions. I'm proud of my reputation and for being accessible to citizens, demanding transparency and accountability, and getting the job done. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. Pasha?
Yes, and the question is, if you could, one more time.
So what do you feel has best prepared you as current council member to lead the other members of the town council if elected mayor?
Thank you so much. As a current council member, I think the most valuable thing that I've provided to the town is some strategic direction on the biggest issues in town. When we do planning for Maple Avenue, we have to plan for traffic. You need to have a transportation plan. I brought this up 6 years ago. I brought it up repeatedly over the past 6 years. And moving forward, we need to have a transportation plan for Maple Avenue and redevelopment. I would also say that, oh, and just a quick note, the current plan for hiring a consultant to review the code does not include developing a transportation plan, which is one of the reasons I voted against it. Strategy matters. Execution's important, but strategy matters. The other thing I would say is that in my professional career, I have 15 years of experience with policy development. I do this professionally. I know how to write stuff, and I'll work with the town staff to develop policy recommendations such as a tree conservation policy. Let's work with Fairfax County. They already have one. Let's look at Falls Church. They already have one.
Thank you, Pasha.
In the town. Thank you.
And Linda.
Thank you. So, I just have to bring this up. My mom was mayor. My dad before that was on the council. So I grew up with this. I have watched councils get along, talk to each other, how they come to a consensus and just listen to each other. And just being on council, we have had a shift in council members in our council. And I think I've adapted and just been able to talk to everybody, work with them. We definitely have different perspectives, and that is a healthy council, in my opinion. I'm a teacher, and so teachers are good at listening, and teachers are good at working together with people, and that's just my natural personality, and I think that's a good thing I have. I also am I work with so many people in town, and so different people of different backgrounds, different ages, and so whoever is going to be on council, I'm going to work with, and I'm going to listen to them, and that's just my nature. So thanks.
And then Howard, you actually have the final minute here to add anything if you'd like.
Thank you very much, Doug. I'd like to add that one other thing I can bring to the table that I think is very useful. I have a proven track record working with the county leadership. I had an excellent relationship with Supervisor Hudgen, who was a 100 mil supervisor. She helped us leverage funds of the Vienna Fire Station and a number of projects around town. I have a very good working relationship with Walter Alcorn, and I'm getting a good relationship with Jeff McKay, the new chairman of the Board of Supervisors. It's going to be critical that we have good working relationships with the county leaders, and I can point to solid links I have and solid accomplishments I've got them to produce. Thank you.
And now we're going to come to our final statements, and each of the candidates will have 2 minutes to give some final thoughts. And Pasha, you're the first one who's up, so you've got the mic.
Thank you. Thank you to NEVCA and to VBA for organizing this forum, and thank you to Doug for hosting. One thing I want to address really quickly, the point was raised earlier that I called the Mac Genius. I encourage everyone to read that column in the town newsletter, in which I was complimentary of everybody who participated in the policy making for developing the Mac. I think it's good to be complimentary and kind to your colleagues, even when you might disagree on some key points. I also think it's important to note that in many respects, the Mac did work. Some things that were lacking were transportation planning. I've raised that point over and over again. I raised it again during this debate. I raised it when we voted to move ahead with a consultant for a rezoning, not rezoning, but looking at the code and then potentially rezoning in the town. And the point that I keep making is, folks, we need a transportation plan. Fairfax County has a level of service requirement. Tyson's Corner has a level of service requirement. That means a cap on how much traffic you can have in town. We don't have one. I've advocated that we do. These are basic things that need to get done, and I support that, and that's absolutely necessary for our strategy moving forward. However, in the meantime, we've got bigger issues to deal with. With the COVID-19 pandemic, we need to be cautious and get back to basics. Police, public works, utilities, trash pickup. We can't afford to spend $250,000 on a consultant right now for residential rezoning. As mayor, I'll stop that. And we certainly can't afford to spend $14 million on a new police station. That's funded by the meals tax. Meals tax revenues are down 75%. As mayor, I will balance the budget and make the tough decisions to keep our small town running. If you want a mayor who understands the risks and the right strategy, vote Pasha, and please vote absentee.
Thank you, Pasha. Our next final statement is from Linda. Linda?
Thank you. Well, Vienna, why should you vote for Linda Colbert to be your next mayor? I'm different than my opponents. I have a background that I grew up in Vienna. I work with so many different organizations, with people of different backgrounds, different ages. I'm a member of the Vienna Business Association. I'm constantly in touch with our businesses in town, and I'm respected by them also. I have local experience. I have regional experience. I am not political. I'm not going to make empty promises to you, and I don't profess to know all the answers. I will listen to you. I am accessible. I will talk to you on any subject, anytime, about anything. And I'm an independent. I want to work with whoever gets elected to our town council. I will lead our town and provide the right format to bring us forward. I care about all of Vienna, every person of every age and every background, and I will make decisions that are best for all Vienna. We are one Vienna, and we are one community. Please vote for me, Linda Colbert, to be your next mayor.
Thank you. And Howard, we've got you.
Okay, thank you, Doug. I ask for your vote for mayor on May 5th. I have a record of accomplishments, and I give you a promise of action and not talk. I'm proud of my reputation with demanding accountability and transparency. My record demonstrates I can work with the community and partners to make tough decisions, take decisive action, and get the job done for the benefit of Vienna, its citizens, and its business. I have provided constant and aggressive advocacy on Vienna's citizen issues, and you will continue to see me walking your street if you have a problem. Whether it's noise violations, illegal tree cutting, potholes, tree issues, snow plowing, trash, and road hazards, I'm available for your conversation. You will not see me grandstanding or on the news because I will be in the back room working for you, making calls, demanding answers, and pushing for solutions. Thank you for your support. Doug, I want to thank you for hosting this. Councilman Colbert, I'm very happy you could participate. Councilman Maggi, you could participate. And folks have to understand that it's a lot of effort to be on the council. And I think all of us appreciate the service we all provide. Thank you.
Well, that's great. And I know that the Northeast Vienna Citizens Association and the Vienna Business Association want to thank the three of you for participating. We want to remind the community the election is on May 5th, and it is important for you to register so you can vote absentee. Those were instructions were at the beginning, but we do recommend that you go to the fairfaxcounty.gov/election website so you can get that registration done, certainly before the deadline of the 13th, which is on their website. So I did want to mention that as well. We want to thank the three of you. We've got Pasha Maggi, we've got Linda Colbert, and Howard Springsteen. Thank you and good luck in the May 5th elections.
Thank you.